Good evening, everyone. I hope that you've had a wonderful day so far today. It has been beautiful outside, even though most people will look out and say, oh, it's kind of cold and dreary and a little bit gray. I say because we're on this side of the grass, it was a beautiful day. So I'm grateful to see the skies, whether they're gray, blue, sun is shining or not. I'm grateful to see it either way. I hope that you are grateful for it too. Tonight, we have some great guests on the show. But first, I guess I ought to tell y'all the name of the show in case you haven't watched it before. This is the Lady Sandwich with Wonderlo, and my name is Wonderlo. I'm your host and creator of the show. I have a wonderful panel of guests who are going to join us tonight, and we're going to have a really good conversation about that first 9 weeks of school and education during the pandemic. But first, just a couple of housekeeping tips for you. If you haven't liked our page yet, please go over to my Facebook page, which is Wonderlo. I'm sorry, the Lady Sandwich with Wonderlo on Facebook. Is also the Lady Sandwich with Wonderlo on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel as well. So make sure that you go over and subscribe to that and that you like the page, you like the video, share the video, comment. During any of my shows, we always make sure that if you want to ask a question or you want to make a comment or you just want to get in on a discussion, that you please do so. And there's a comment section right over to the side where we can see what you're saying. So if you have a question for a panelist or a guest or at any time, or for myself, please, please, please go over and add that comment, and we'll make sure that we read it, hopefully while we're still on the air. If it's a question that you have that we don't answer while we're on the air, then we can always go back and answer it for you later. So, big question of the day. Have you voted yet? If you have not, please, ma'am, sir, please go and vote. I went the other day and it took me every bit of 25 minutes. I actually timed it from the time I walked into the building to the time I actually finished voting, and it moved very quickly. Now, granted, I went Monday afternoon when it was kind of rainy outside. Not a lot of people were staring around, so I did kind of get in and move a little bit quicker through the line. But the process was absolutely wonderful. It was painless. We were able to get in. You get your little stylus at one place, then you check your ID at another place, and then you just go to your voting booth and you vote. The ballots are very easy to understand, and I tell people one of the things that we do for the family, and I do for the whole family, is I research every ballot for all of us, no matter where we live. I live in Benton. My son and I have two kids that live in Little Rock. One lives in Alexander and another one that lives in Benton also. And what I do is I'll go in, I look at the sample ballots, and I research all of the candidates for them. So because they don't have time sometimes, and I'm the person with most time. So I research the candidates, I research the issues that are going to appear on the ballot, and I give my recommendations. Now, no, I do not tell them how to vote because they are adults and they have, they make their own choices. But I do give them enough information on the candidates and enough information on the issues for them to make an informed vote. Because that's the whole thing, is that if you're educated about what you're voting on, then you use your vote a little bit better. So that's just something that I do. And I'm so adamant about it that every year I poll my family, go, hey, did y'all vote? Okay, let me go find out, what's on your ballot. Because depending where you live, you may have city directors, you may have school board elections going on, not just the regular stuff that everybody's going to vote on the president. That's across the board. But Little Rock may have things on the ballot that, of course, that are not going to be in Saline County, or Pulaski County would be different from Saline County. So I research those things just so we're all informed about what's on the ballot, what issues we need to be looking at, what those issues really mean, and then they can make, like I said, an informed vote. So that's my little thing on voting. If you have not done it, please go and do it as soon as possible. Early voting ends November 2nd. And I think the polls close on November 2nd a little bit earlier. Check your local polling places, check your local early voting spaces, and find out what time those polls close so that you don't get there, thinking it lasts till 6 and it may close at 5. I'm not sure, but make sure. And that way you know that you can get in and get your vote. Now, of course, if you want to wait till election day, which is November 3rd, and vote, that's your prerogative. But I'm going to tell you now, early voting is so much easier because you can get in and get out in most polling places. So if you have not voted, please, ma'am, sir, go out and do that. The other thing, we have to continuously say this: wash your hands, y'all. Now, I don't know why we got to keep saying wash your hands. Our mamas taught us how to wash our hands when we were little kids. Now, it means something different now. But make sure that you're putting your mask on, that you're keeping your distance. One thing I can say about standing in the line to vote is that every single person obeyed the stand here things that post the little stickers on the floor. There was nobody who decided to break it or stand right behind everybody. Everybody obeyed the 6 foot rule, and it was good to see, because I've been in some places where folks act like that doesn't exist. But while we were standing in line, nobody crowded anybody. Everybody actually kept their distance. So make sure that when you do go to vote, or when you're out shopping, or you're going to school, you're going to work, whatever the case is, make sure that you're keeping your mask on. And again, we had this lesson last week, and we talked about properly putting on your mask. Now I'm gonna demonstrate this again. Terry Hollisworth demonstrated for us last week. I don't want to see this right here, y'all. Don't do that. What's the point of putting on the mask? Cover your mouth and your nose with your mask. So when you go out, you're protecting yourself, you're protecting everybody else, and nobody catches anything. So put your mask on the right way, keep your social distance the right way, and wash your hands 20 seconds, hot, warm soapy water the right way. So we can get back to, not going to say normal, because I don't know anybody who wants to be back to normal, but at least we can get back to an everyday, regular kind of life where we're moving about and we're not afraid of infections or any of these things going on. So that's my whole big old soapbox for today. Go vote, social distance, wear your mask, wash your hands. And that way we can keep moving, we can keep growing, we can take care of the things at hand, and more lives can be saved. Prayers for the people who have lost family members and that are suffering with that right now. I have several family members who have recovered from COVID-19, and the stories that they tell are horrifying. So prayers to anyone who's dealing with it right now, and prayers for the families who have lost loved ones during this pandemic. So you all stay strong. God bless you. You know that we have that you have prayers from the nation. You have prayers from around the world with people praying for you and rooting for your family. So thank y'all for listening to my little my housekeeping stuff in the beginning. So tonight we're talking about education during the pandemic. And some of you may remember a couple of months ago, at the beginning of the school year, we did a show on the same thing, but we talked about what it was going to look like, to educate kids during this pandemic, and how were we going to do virtual learning, what were we going to do about homeschooling, and what was going to happen when kids go back to school. Well, now that very thing has happened, and the first 9 weeks ended last week. And I've heard very few good stories. I've heard way more horror stories than I have anything. So tonight we have a panel of educators, and I have one down here in the waiting room. Let me see if I can get her in. I don't know if her, is her camera working? Okay, I'm gonna take her right back out for just a second until we get her in and get her working real good. But we have a panel of guests tonight, and some of you may remember Miss Brenda Robinson from the last show. And now say your first name, Miss Nellon.
Cyna. Cyna, like the country, Cyna.
Now, because of the what is this? The accent mark. I was like, if I say China, she gonna say that's wrong.
No, that's right. It's just broken down into two sounds, Cyna. But it's still
Gotcha.
Yes.
So we have Miss Brenda Robinson and Miss Cyna Nellon. And these ladies are members of, now this is long, so I got to make sure I say it right. Oh my goodness, I had it pulled up on I have two screens up. So when y'all see me looking up like this, first of all, I got on bifocals. So I'm reading through the back of them, through the bottom of them, like, grandma used to do. These ladies are members of National Sorority of Phi Delta Kappa, Inc., the Gamma Nu chapter. Oh, and there's our other guest. She peeked in and she peeked back out.
Uh-oh.
There she is. How are you?
Hello. I'm excellent. How are you?
Good.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. So I was just introducing Miss Robinson and Miss Nellon, so you have to tell me your name.
Agnolia Gay. Just like a magnolia block.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Gay. I appreciate you being on tonight, and welcome all three of you ladies. Now, what I'll do instead of introducing and telling about you, I'll let you all do that for yourself. And anybody who wants to go first, go ahead and just tell us a little bit about you.
I'll go ahead and start. I'm Brenda Robinson. I am a 25-year career teacher. I've been teaching for 25 years, basically elementary education, but this year I am teaching in high school. And I love every minute of it. And I'm actually the epistolist of the National Sorority of Phi Delta Kappa. And I am just honored to be here to talk about the pandemic, education during the pandemic. So I'm glad. Thank you for having me on tonight.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. My name is Cyna Nellon. I'm also a member of National Sorority of Phi Delta Kappa Gamma Nu chapter. I serve as the advisor for KOT, which is our undergraduate chapter. So we have clubs for college age students as well as high school students, and I'm the advisor for the college age students. I'm also a professor at a local HBCU here, and I have a daughter who is attending school virtually, who's in the 2nd grade.
Okay.
And I'm excited to discuss.
All right, welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Agnolia Gay. I am a 24-year veteran educator, and that has been in the high school. I am a speech and drama teacher, and I am also a member of the National Sorority of Phi Delta Kappa Gamma Nu chapter here in Little Rock. And I am very excited to be here this evening. Thank you so much for just having this conversation. And thank you so much for allowing teachers to have voice.
For sure.
I have my daughter went through the Little Rock School District, and I'm just excited to be here tonight.
All right. I appreciate you all taking time out to come on this evening. Like we said, we talked about this at the very beginning of the school year, and we talked about how, what was going to be different about this school year. For one thing, we've never been in a pandemic, not in our lifetime anyway. And how were the students, the teachers, the parents going to actually make it through a school year where we kind of were, we left off last school year kind of indecisive about how this school year was going to start. And we talked about those different things because I think everybody had either a child that was being homeschooled, somebody was doing virtual. I think, and let me say real quick, we were going to have Dr. Carla Carter and Dr. Nedra Allen on, and you all just say a prayer for them. They had some illnesses. Matter of fact, Dr. Nedra is not feeling well this evening, and Dr. Carter had an illness in the family. So you all just say a little prayer for them and keep them lifted, that everything is okay and that they're well. So we want to make sure we say that because they were scheduled to come on, and then they just had some last minute things come up, and that's totally understandable. But one of the things that we talked about was, I think Dr. Nedra had a son that did not go to college this year or didn't go to the campus and was doing his classes at home. So, and Ms. Cyna, you said, your little girl is doing homeschool. So we left off thinking, what is this school year going to look like? Because we're not going to do traditional learning this year. And you left off in a school year not doing traditional learning. So let's just kind of start there. What is your opinion on, what's the update on the first 9 weeks and how did it look to you all?
I guess I'll start since I have a daughter that's participating. It was hard. It was a very, very difficult first 9 weeks, but I will say it's getting a lot better. That we're finally kind of starting to get a flow, but it's overwhelming now that everybody has kind of gotten on the ball. So at first, we have a Schoolology platform here in Little Rock, and so students have to log on, and they basically have a folder for each class or each lesson. So at one point, there were about 20 folders, and maybe 2 of them had lessons in them. which was aggravating because if you're trying to do the lessons and the folders are always empty, then you can't get anything done. But at some point, lessons got in the folder, but no email was sent out to tell us to check the lessons in the folder. So now we go back, and now we have 20 folders full of lessons, that we need to kind of play catch up on, which is overwhelming for a parent who's trying to teach your child from home and work, and then do, everything else that you're trying to do. I was talking to my mom the other day. I guess it's not clear. Agnolia Gay is my mother. So if that's not clear, the other person.
Really?
But I was talking to, yes, but I was talking to her the other day, and I was just saying that it's now really difficult to separate like home life and work life because everything is in the same space. And so it feels like you never get any free time. So that's kind of where we are at this point in the 9 weeks. It's better, but it's harder, or it feels overwhelming now that everybody, all the teachers kind of know how to access the folders and give assignments.
That's understandable.
Okay, I'll piggyback. I'll come after Cyna. I would like to say on behalf of teachers that 2 weeks before school starts, you give us a brand new program.
Wow.
To try to maneuver through. And I can't speak for every teacher, but a lot of teachers in my particular building were just not ready for students. I basically had to say, what would I do on my first day if I was in a regular classroom? And so I just put everything on the first page. I put a week's worth of work on the first page. And then when I figured out how to create folders, my students had to go back and resubmit things because they weren't in a place where I could grade them, which was frustrating for students, frustrating for teachers, frustrating for parents.
I can see that.
Yes, right now. So that was the beginning. I finally realized I have one class in 2 locations. I have one class in 2 locations. And so I made a conscious decision that I was going to treat my face-to-face the same way I treated my virtual students. And I opened up my team meeting every day for my virtual students to be have the same access that my face-to-face students have. Now, they were given a choice to be on or not be on. And a lot of them decided not to be on, and it is those students that suffered the most.
Okay, I can see that. I look at. Go ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm also in a different district that's also using Schoology, and yes, that was a challenge to even learn the platform, and some of the syncing is still not there with some of the platforms. Learning how to put all assignments in. So the reason we went to that platform is at any moment you may have to go virtual. That means, with quarantine, you may have to close school down, just at any time they're telling us, we may have to go virtual, depending on, the cases. So that way everything should be uploaded in those folders that Cyna was talking about. In those folders, work has to be uploaded, for the students. And then it was hard for the students to submit the work because we weren't receiving the work to even grade it. So with this platform, it helps you just grade it all there within the platform. So not only was it challenging for teachers, but it's challenging for parents because this is a totally different platform that parents are having to use as well. I mean, just to help their students. And again, with teaching students face-to-face and virtual. So, you're teaching children in the classroom, and then you also have to teach your children virtually. So this platform was supposed to help alleviate a lot of pain, right? Really to try to drill it down where you're teaching the same thing, that you don't have to teach something different to different, set of children, that they're all getting the same thing. So we found out what really worked for us is to have 2 devices.
Okay.
Chromebooks. That way you could take attendance and do something else on one Chromebook, and then the other Chromebook you actually have your Google meetings with your children or Zoom, whichever one you're using. And that way you're talking to your virtual students as well as your students that are face-to-face. So yeah, it has been a challenge. The first 9 weeks has been a challenge with that because parents just didn't understand the platform. Students didn't understand the platform. And then we're trying to help them understand the platform, and we didn't understand the platform.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, we're still learning. It's not there yet. I mean, we're really still learning how, to make assignments. And you're right. I mean, that's the only way. You have to put them in those folders. That's the only out that you have, is to put all these assignments in the folders and then label the folders. But I just think that it's been overwhelming for all of us this first 9 weeks. Very overwhelming, just because it's not going to be school as usual. It's not. So you have to think of how can you be a little bit more creative.
Yes.
In your teaching, in your presentation, with a mask on. And for me, I have to wear a face shield. We have to wear a mask and a face shield. So, it's already extremely hard with talking. So now you really have to enunciate and over talk just for the students to understand what you just said. And then you understand what they're saying.
Okay.
I'd also like to say
real quick. If anybody's watching, you can tell that we keep freezing because I keep watching the screen and I think we freeze every so many seconds. So I'm not sure what's going on. I'm trying to refresh mine without us losing our connection. So just bear with us, keep watching, and eventually I guess it's almost like the timing is just a little bit off. So you'll hear our voices, but we'll have the same facial expressions. Because I'm sitting here going, I know mine hadn't changed for a while. I'm smiling enough, but you can't see that just now. So I'm assuming that that'll fix itself in just a second. So just make sure that you all stay tuned in and keep watching or keep listening, because you probably can hear us, but maybe the screen is frozen for right now. Now, I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody. Go.
I was going to say I'm an oral communications teacher, and as an oral communications teacher, I'm trying to look at facial expressions and articulation and teach students how to build community and interact with each other. And so it was time to do speeches. And there was, where students can't take their mask off. And I'm trying to figure out how am I supposed to grade. So we eventually decided that the students would go home, take your mask off, videotape your presentations. And Cyna had been doing that in March of last year with her drama students once, COVID first hit. And so I always knew that it was doable. But the question is, will the students actually go home and do it? And you would be surprised. Some of the things that students send back to me with little nightcaps on, etc. It's just really unacceptable presentations, some of them. And then there are those who understand the importance of, getting the work done correctly.
Now, I would say, as don't have any kids in the district, I have grandkids in the district. And the younger, well, all of them are in elementary. I think the oldest one is in the 4th grade. Now, he's having a little bit of difficulty because he has a teacher who does not go in and load the lessons accordingly like she's supposed to. And they get behind every once in a while. Where I've seen the worst, when I say this now, I don't mean to insult any teachers anywhere, but when I've seen the worst situation is I have a nephew who is in another school district in a rural county. And they're using, is it Virtual Arkansas? And his teachers in that are all across wherever. They're not in Arkansas. So he's learning one thing on Virtual Arkansas. His classmates that are actually in school are learning something totally different. They're not even on the same lessons. So he can't go to his teacher and ask for help when he needs help because they're not on the same lessons. The way these are set up, he has 7 classes. And they go in, and for one class, they may load 7 assignments that are due in one day. Yes, 7 classes. And at one time, we went in and looked at it, and he had like almost, close to 30 assignments due. 7 classes, 30 assignments, and they're all due in the same week. It is impossible for him to be able to do those. So we've been working and working. We had to work to get caught up. And he had some questions the other day, and I was at work and he couldn't call me. And he tried to reach out to one of the teachers, and he was told, well, I'm not here to do all of that. I'm just here to help you if you need me. So if you have a question, you can call me and ask me, and I'll get back to you. And I went, well, if he's the teacher and he's the instructor of that class, what does that mean? Your job is to teach me, right? So I had questions about his what they call it, Zoom appointments, because on most schools when you have a Zoom class, it's the teacher actually teaching a class during the Zoom thing, right? That's what you all are doing. That's not what they're getting.
Yes.
What they're getting is somebody pre-recording a Zoom session for about 10 minutes, giving instruction on an entire week worth of lessons. And then throwing these kids out there going, you all just have to do the work. Well, when they have questions and they reach out by email or call, the calls are not getting returned and neither are the emails. And when they do finally talk to the instructor, it's sort of like, well, you didn't look hard enough, or look in this area, or, call me back if you have more questions. And I'm going, what is that? So that's one of the things that, and I'm not even a parent, and that's one of the things that's frustrated me.
What grade was that? Because you said elementary.
No, this one that's having this issue is in the 9th grade.
In the 9th grade, okay.
They're basically, to me, it's almost like they're set up to fail. The way the lessons are loaded. Number one, how in the world am I supposed to finish 7 assignments in one class when I have 7 classes?
Right.
And you have at least 5 to 6 lessons per day being loaded to each of those classes. So there's days where he could have up to 42 lessons to complete within a 2-day period.
That's insane.
That is crazy. Exactly.
And they're saying that they should be able to do it on their own. They should be able to do all of that on their own and not have
that's that K-12 program.
Yeah, accelerated pathway.
I hate that pathway.
I would like to say that based on what I was told that when they were training us that first week, that is basically what they said to the teachers. You can go in for your virtual students and just give them like a 15-minute explanation of what's happening, then let them go and do it. And then you're teaching your face-to-face. Well, I couldn't figure out how to have my virtual students keep up with my face-to-face students if my face-to-face is getting 90 minutes and my virtual is getting 15. And that's when I made the conscious decision to leave the teams open. But what I also do is I record. So, and I speak to my virtual students who choose not to come to class that day. We are recording this for you. And so before you ask me 100,000 questions, I'm expecting you to go watch the recording. And so you are going to hear the things that I say to your peers who make it their business to make it to the meeting. But what you just said is what I was told. I was told that I did not have to teach face-to-face and virtual at the same time. I did need to give a 15-minute, instructions on what the expectations were, let the virtual students go, and then deal with the face-to-face. I was told that.
I just want to say that, like, so in theory, it should work, right? Because Boogie, that's what I call my daughter, I'm sorry, she's had a couple of lessons that have worked like that, and it's been okay. So we've been really behind in music, okay? The lessons weren't there at first. They popped up all of a sudden, and she sent me a text in Dojo and was like, hey, we need some grades before the 9 weeks. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know we had work. So I go to the folder, and at first I didn't see anything in the folder. Every link I clicked on, like the little sad face comes up, meaning the link, it doesn't work or whatever. So I sent her another text. I was like, none of them work. She's like, oh, well, there's another thing in the corner that you're supposed to click. I was like, okay. So I go back, I click on a video because she didn't even tell me that she made video directions. That would have helped. You know what I'm saying? So I clicked on a video, just randomly find the video directions. It's like, okay, cool. And so she literally like shows you with the screen. But if she had told me or sent the email that said, hey, here's some video directions for these lessons, that would have taken care of everything, because she really did thoroughly go over everything in the video. And then once I go to the website, it's literally an independent website. It's not a lesson that the teacher has created and that they're trying to give to the students to teach them, a lesson that they've created on their own. These are independent sites that then once I get there, it drives them on their own. You see what I'm saying? So they're not really teaching them a lesson. So it's different if you have your own personal lesson that you're trying to teach. You need that time to interact, as opposed to, oh, you need to learn for her learning doubles, right? 4 + 4 = 8, 6 + this = 12. They can send them to a website that'll teach them that. You see what I'm saying? And that is kind of hands off. And that's how they're expecting it to work. But for communications and other classes that you're talking about, that your nephew or whoever, whatever baby that you have is taking, it doesn't work for individualized lessons. For instance, where I'm trying to teach you to the parts of a speech, or you have to create and build a story. You can't just be like, oh, here's 5 minutes, go do that. You have to really take time with that. And people are trying to give those tactics, you know what I'm saying, to things that's not going to work on, because it does kind of work for me on a college level, right? I give my kids a very, very detailed assignment. It's usually like a page and a half, you know what I'm saying? So it gives them all of the directions. And then on top of that, we have like maybe a 15 to 20 minute virtual conversation, because they all have jobs, you know what I'm saying, things of that nature. And then I make myself available for the further discussion if you need it. And we do that in 2 ways. We can do that synchronously, which is, we usually do it asynchronously, which is where they like can leave me a question. Hey, Professor Nellon, I don't understand, blah, 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 blah. I usually give them up to 48 hours for me to answer that question. And so I can just come back and leave them a video where I kind of talk about the answer to them. I'm like, if that's not clear, let's set up a Google Meet, right? And then we can talk face to face and go back and forward. So I do kind of have steps like that, but one, that's college, right? It's not ninth grade, right? It's college level. And even with my college level students, it's kind of like pulling teeth, because I explained to them, I'm not going to bounce you up and down on my lap. You're not in high school, right? You're not in junior high. You're becoming independent. And so I do definitely think that they're asking them to kind of do college level stuff in the 9th grade if they want them to think that independently, from what you're telling me. And then on top of that, I'm not giving them 7 assignments. I do give them a very detailed, thorough assignment that will take them the course of the week to finish, but it's not like you turn this in today, you turn this in today. No, you have the week, you know what I'm saying, to finish these things on you're kind of on your pace, if that makes sense.
Now, something I did notice in the very beginning, it was maybe 2 or 3 assignments a day. In a week. And then closer to the end of the 9 weeks, it was like, oh my God, I forgot to give y'all of it. And then dumped a whole pile of work. And you did it, and it had to have all of it done within a week's time. Well, again, 7 classes spread out over a whole week with up to 7 assignments in each class. It's hard for him to get it done. Now, here's where my real big issue is. If I'm a good student, and I'm generally a great learner on my own, and I can pretty much figure out things, and I can use tools, and I know how to click and use resources, my reading skills are there, my comprehension skills are there, I can handle that.
Yes.
But you have too many kids who are on virtual learning who do not have those tools. They don't have those skills. They don't have a guardian or a parent at home they can sit around that has 2 degrees, like us, because I'm one of them people with 2 degrees, that can help them do that work. So what happens to that child where they're saying, okay, here, just take this virtual learning and learn and do it on your own? Those kids are failing. You have entire school districts right now that are failing. My husband was telling me about an article he read not too long ago about, and I'm not going to say the name of the school, but there's a district in Arkansas who normally during regular school time has been one of the most highest performing schools in the state, who now these kids are doing virtual learning and they are failing miserably. The system, the way that the instruction is set up and the way the lessons are set up, what I keep seeing is there's some continuation of them, because it is like lesson 1, 2, 3, and if you had a book, you probably could read them, and it is chapters in the book. But when you're missing that face-to-face, and the only thing I'm getting is that 10-minute Zoom instruction thing, What if my comprehension level is not there? What if I don't have anybody to help me? I could see easily, and again, I have a master's degree. I could see easily as a kid getting totally lost and just giving up. So we're going to have a generation of kids who are going to finish school and they're going to be lost.
Yes.
It's going to be some huge gaps in their education because, and it's not their fault. It's not educators' fault. It's not anybody's fault. We didn't cause the pandemic. We didn't, this is not our doing. But we just got to find a better way, I feel like, to teach people than here's your 15-minute Zoom thing. Just go out and do it. And trust me, it's not working. My other little niece has been an AB student for the whole time. She's failing. She's making bad grades. And that's just unusual.
What grade is she in?
She is in the 11th grade, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're struggling because, again, like you just said, they're being put in a college setting, so to speak, because they have to independently learn.
They are.
And they're still at that age where they need that one-on-one or they face-to-face or at least more instruction, more structure. And that virtual learning thing, I'm telling you, if I had to do it, I'd be like, you know what? I'm putting on 2 masks. I'm going to school. I don't care what's happening. Because I need to be in the classroom because it's just hard for them to keep up.
In my
in our district, it's not like that. I mean, you teach face-to-face and virtual at the same time, and you can, the lesson.
That's how I thought everybody was doing.
It's the same lesson. If the teacher, we put it up on our big TV, so I mean, you could even see the entire class, and they're going through the whole motion. It's not like, okay, I'm giving you the assignment or listen to this video and you go on. It's not like that at all.
I like that.
It's meant to work together. And then you can put the children in those breakout rooms. So you can have your face-to-face children also get in Zoom. And you can put them in breakout rooms. I mean, there's a way that you can, just for conversation or just to hear what others are saying. So, it has to be engaging. It just can't be. But I think the virtuals, the school that you're talking about, virtual Arkansas, I think it's based on independence in a path.
Well,
and that's not, that's not good for children. I mean, we already had that gap when school went virtual and we didn't know what we were doing when all that happened. And I think too, with the mindset of some of the students, it was do the students no harm. I mean, that came down from the State Department that, kids, we just had to give them a grade last year, nothing less than what they made the third 9 weeks. They either had to make that same grade and above, but you couldn't go lower. So if I made a C the third 9 weeks, I could make a D. So in the mentality of students as well as parents, getting them to, you have to do the work this time. This is not like it was when we went virtual last time. We didn't know what we were doing, but this time it is about the instruction. It is about, getting those assignments in. And you're right that some students are not doing as well because they think, oh, why am I doing all this work? Last year I didn't have to do it and I passed. But, it's totally different now simply because of all of the platforms, that school districts are using, to try to engage the students more. So, yeah, I mean, you have to take time to talk to the students, the virtual students, as well as the students that are face-to-face. I mean, because they're struggling as well. They're struggling as well as being in the classroom face-to-face. So you do have to take that opportunity as an educator to talk to those children face-to-face, as well as set up appointments sometimes to talk to the students virtually, after the school day ends, just being able just to say, hey, you asked a lot of questions, so I thought maybe you were still struggling. So, what is it that I can help you with? I mean, we have to have those conversations because we're in this together.
Sorry.
No.
I was just also going to say, though, that I think the big difference, well, particularly with that 1K Arkansas 12 program that you're talking about, that program was already out before this started. So it's really meant for people who want to homeschool their children, right? And most homeschool parents are very hands-on. So it wasn't meant for this type of learning environment, and they didn't change it, right? So before this, I was kind of looking into the options for homeschool, and that complaint that you just said, like them stacking up assignments, was one of the big complaints across the board from parents saying, hey, you know, we really didn't get a lot of assistance. They just kind of gave us work, right? But I was also going to say that in general, with this new online learning environment, parents have to be involved. Like you can't just give it, and that's the difference. Before with school, you know what I'm saying? And I kind of said to myself when I was having this experience, like, Shana, I don't think you really want to homeschool, you know, because I always said I wanted to homeschool, and now like I have her here and I'm homeschooling her. And I actually do like it now that it's like everything is kind of going, but I have a lot of assistance. It's not me by myself. It's not what you're talking about where it's 40 assignments. I don't have any assistance from teachers. I have assistance from her teachers, and they're actually really working with us because my daughter has an IEP, and so the classes that kind of Miss Robinson and Ms. Gay are talking about, when all the kids are on there, where it's people in front of you and people, it's really overwhelming for her. It's a lot going on, and she doesn't like being muted, right? She don't understand being on mute. She's like, you keep muting me, and she'll have a whole conversation about her being on mute before she can throw a question, which you can't do in class, right? And so so we kind of don't go to the big classes anymore, and we go to her smaller classes, but everyone doesn't have those options where they have more than one teacher, you know? So we'll talk to our teacher that we have twice a day. She has him for 30 minutes. And during that time, a lot of times she has them for 45 minutes twice a day. So we have that session. She loves it. It's only like 3 people in the class. She can ask all the questions she wants. They make stories and learn adjectives and all kinds of stuff. And if there's something that I've been working with her on, because I have to literally have to stop my day. I can't work. I have to sit at the computer with her. I have to focus. I have to look at it. You know, we have to answer these. I have to spell word 10 times. You know what I'm saying? I already know how to spell word, but she doesn't. So we have to spell it over and over until she. But the thing is, like, it takes a lot of my time. You know what I'm saying? For me to have her where I need her to be. And then we're still a little bit behind. It's like in math. I was just talking to her teacher today. I was like, hey, they're working on double add-ins and blah, blah, blah. And they made us take a test. So, you know, I made her study for 30 minutes so we could do good on the test. But that's not where we're at. We're still working on learning doubles. And he's like, no, you go at your pace. You know what I'm saying? And so they're literally telling us it's fine for you to go at your pace. We understand. But I'm also a parent that's in constant communication with all of her teachers. Every week they're going to hear from me. They're getting the email, they're getting the text in Dojo, they're getting the call. Hey, I don't understand. No, you're having difficulty with they're going to hear from me. You know what I'm saying? So I do think it's different in the Little Rock School District, because there are a lot of kids that are struggling, but I'm sorry, and I see Mom, you about to jump in. I'm sorry, but this is the last thing I was going to say. I also work for an after-school virtual program, right? That services at elementary school, and one of the issues that we're having in that is that a lot of parents aren't getting home until 3:34, so that's when their kids are getting online. The kids are getting online in the evening when the parents go home. So you're really asking a teacher, if you're asking them to be available to kids, you're asking them to be available all day. So you're asking them now. Parents are calling Miss Brenda and my mom, because I know y'all are those type of teachers who will let parents call you well after 5 and 6 o'clock. So now my mom and Miss Brenda are working from 8:45 in the morning or 7:30, whenever they get up, till 9, 10 o'clock, because that's when these parents can call. And that's insane. It's insane. I'm done.
No, you actually led into my next question, because I was going to ask you, how has the pandemic affected educators, students, and parents? And that's part of it. Let's talk about that. Go ahead, Ms. Gay.
I wanted to, and I'll try to weave that answer in. How is it affecting us? Well, first off, I need to go back to March. In March, when nobody knew what was really going on, and my actual class was taken away from me because I was not a core teacher. And so I was a support for a math teacher. And so it was my responsibility, in order to get my paycheck, to call the math teacher students and make sure they were where they were supposed to be. And so students in March did not get online, did not do the work. And so they came back in August thinking that it was just a continuation of March.
Okay.
You had a very small number of students that followed through on that virtual learning between March and May.
I believe that.
So now here we are, and administration knew it, that they voiced that. Now we have a lot of students that haven't been in school since we left, and so now we come in August, and you students have the same mindset. They're thinking, and they were told, you do not have to get online as long as you log in before 11:59.
Yep.
You have to log in before 11.
Yep.
The administrators told students, as long as you log in before 11:59, which made it very difficult for teachers. Now we have students that are just not getting on. And I wanted to say, you're correct. There are some students that are very capable of going in and getting that information without ever looking at a teacher. I have several A's for students, and I'm at the magnet school. I'm at Parkview Arts Magnet. Those students went in there, they know how to, and they might get it off a little bit, and I'll give them, the pickups and tell them what they did wrong. They'll go back in and fix it. But you have some students that are special needs, that do not have their para, and they're trying to give me some work, but they're totally missing the issue. And you got parents that are just letting the students do it on their own when they're not capable of doing it on their own.
That's true.
So I have the whole spectrum of students who can do it without a teacher, who need the teacher assistance. And I asked that question. One of the first questions the first week is why? What was the determining factor for you doing face-to-face or virtual? I wanted to hear both sides. And my students who did face-to-face said, I can't do it by myself.
Wow.
I need that teacher in front of me. My teenagers told me that. And I appreciate that. So it has really just the way that it was designed, the things that the administration, the higher up, what they said to students affected the way the students responded to teachers and to learning.
And see, that to me made it more difficult.
Yes.
Well, and you tell me, but that made it more difficult for the teachers, technically, and for the parents. If you're telling a child you don't have to go on and do anything, or this is a repeat of last school year, that's crazy. I don't even understand why anybody that would be in education, period. I don't care if you work at the school as the janitor. Why would you ever tell a kid you don't have to do something? You don't have to sign in, or you don't have to do it as long as you sign in by this time frame. That's starting you off in the hole. That's already starting you off at a disadvantage, because you know well as I do, there are kids that go to school to learn, and there are kids that just go to school. That's the sad fact of it. Everybody does not go to school to get an education. People have different reasons for being where they are, because sometimes it's just they told me I had to go. And you know that. You've seen it in classroom. That happened when we were in school. You know that there were classmates of yours and people that you went to school with that they were not at school to learn anything. It was where they had to be because of the age, and we lived at home, and if mama said you went. Well, if you start a kid off telling them, well, you don't have to do this, you don't have to sign on, you don't have to do the work, they're not going to do the work.
Yes.
And like you said, you have parents that are not getting home till 3 o'clock in the evening, and the kid is not signing on to 3 or 4 in the evening. So your phone is ringing at 5 or 6 in the clock. And first, let me just say this to both of y'all. If you all are answering that phone, God bless y'all. Because I'm going to tell you the truth. I wouldn't answer my phone. I'm sorry. I'm going to give you from 7 whatever time in the morning till you're going to get 4 o'clock. At 4:01, it's a done deal. You call my number, I'm not answering. And that's going above and beyond. And thank God there are teachers that still do that. Because you know as well as I did, it is much needed, particularly right now, for teachers to have a heart to even want to help their students, that you're standing up and answering the phone at 7, 8 o'clock at night because you have a student that's honestly trying. Now, everybody knows that you got some people are doing it just because, well, this is when mom and daddy finally got home and they got on to me about my homework. Well, I guess I better call and find out something. You know that some of your phone calls are that. But then you have a portion of your phone calls are kids who are honest to God struggling and are trying to get it. And if they can call you at 7 o'clock and say, hey, Miss Gay, I'm stuck. I got a question. I don't understand how to do this problem. And if you're kind enough to answer that phone, then I tell you, God bless you and Miss Robinson, because again, Wonder wouldn't answer that phone at the 401. You just get
it's
7 o'clock the next day. I'm sorry.
You're right. I mean, it's
a bit. I'll do that.
It's a bit challenging, but we're just in a challenging situation right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, we talked about children teaching virtual and face-to-face at the same time, but then you have teachers who just totally teach nothing but virtual students.
Mm-hmm.
So in an elementary setting, say if like last year I was a 5th grade teacher, so we were departmentalized. I taught literacy and someone else taught math,
Mm-hmm.
and someone else taught social studies and science. But in some elementary schools now, the virtual teacher is teaching all the subjects. Say
wow.
5th grade teachers teaching math, science, social studies.
Yep.
So you're asking, how has a pandemic affect educators? It's affected educators just like it's affected students and it's affected parents. It's overwhelming. I mean, to be an effective teacher, you came home anyway before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
You were always working on lesson plans. You were always I'd wake up in the middle of the night going, you know what? I don't want to do that. I need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I change gears, within my lesson plans, but thinking that you have to do all, the lesson plans, for all these virtual students. And then again, uploading all this information in those folders, which is different. So educators are working harder. We're working harder than we did before the pandemic to make sure, number one, that we're uploading all of those things. And we too have to make sure the students are safe when they're in school. So when we had like something called non-instructional duties, that means we would help with bus duty, or we would have to do recess duty and, hall duty. Well, there used to be a limit, like 60 minutes a week. Well, now that limit has been waived by the State Department. So now educators are now doing bus duty in the morning, doing bus duty in the afternoon, watching the kids, in the hallway, because we need to make sure everyone is staying safe, making sure there's social distance. The kids still want to conquer together and talk, and you'd be like, no, you can't do that. So, so now you have that stress level of, making sure the kids are being social distance, making sure that you're social distance from the students. You have to watch that too. You're standing back trying to look at their computer and, help them. And, you may have to bend down and say, okay, and then you have to move out the way, have the hand sanitizer. So it's a whole different atmosphere. It's a whole different ball game because you want to stay safe, and when the pandemic hit and we were heroes, we praise you teachers for what you're doing. And then when teachers were saying, it's really not safe, right? To go back in some of these school buildings. And then, we were bad then, So now we're not the heroes that we were in March, but we all have to look at what we thought was best, just like parents have, what they thought is best for their students, for their child. Be it virtual, be it face-to-face, but we're all in this again. I'm going to say we're all in this together, and the choices that we all make, we have to lean and depend on, each other. Yeah, it's been hard. Teachers are working extra hard. I mean, weekends, I come home exhausted. There's things that I have to do, and I'm back up again. In the mornings, just so, we're all, and then they tell us to take care of ourselves. It's hard to take care of yourself when you're constantly, because you are thinking as a teacher, how do I reach all of my students? I would reach them when they were in the classroom. So now I got to go an extra 10 miles now to reach them virtually to make sure they're successful, because we still want them to be successful at the end of the day. We're teachers.
And the cracks are getting bigger.
We still want them
to be getting bigger.
classes
Yeah,
are
the cracks, the gaps are getting bigger. Like one of the demographics that we're missing a big, and I'll let mom talk about this more, but one of the demographics that we're missing really big is like there were groups of kids who came to school because it was a safe haven, right? They are escaping abusive relationships, abusive homes. They don't want to have to take care of all the kids. And now that we have virtual learning, there's an excuse for my babies to go. I go drive by McDonald's and all my kids be working. I be like, this is how are you in school working? You're up here at McDonald's working. Like, it's insane. So now we expect our kids to be on the computer working like they're supposed to be, but they're over here at drive-thrus and everywhere else trying to make money for the house. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so like the gaps are getting wider and wider and wider. So not only are there those kids who are just missing online, there's those kids who are trying to feed themselves, those kids who are trying to escape. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be at home around my drunk whoever all day. So no, I'm not going to do this work until, you know what I'm saying? And so it's crazy. The gaps are getting insane, you know, and I don't know.
The other piece that I wanted to add, after the first 9 weeks, I had 12 students in the room, where 4 of the virtual students came into the room second 9 weeks. Okay. And so they realized that this virtual thing is not working. And most of them said, my parents made the decision for me to be virtual. And so now that we see that everybody's okay, parents, it says, okay, go on in. And now I have a room that goes from 10, 11 to 15, 16. And where it was social distancing, it's not necessarily social distancing anymore.
And it ain't okay.
Nobody's paying attention and nobody's saying anything. Oh, yeah, if they come back, let them come back. No, you need to come look into my classroom and see what's happening and see what kind of space we have. And
you don't have to. And I know that I've been to, at one time it's been some years ago, my kids were in school and I was on one of the PTA, I was on Air PTA, and we actually toured the school. So I've seen almost pretty much all of the classrooms in all of the schools that are currently in operation right now in Little Rock. And I know for a fact there is no healthy way for you to social distance in those classes. I think about the classroom that my grandkids are in at their elementary school. It is absolutely impossible for them to social distance unless you take over a third of those children out of that room. Number one, they're sitting at least 5 to each round table. Each round table is butted against. Like he's sitting in one chair and somebody's literally directly on his back. So there is no way to social distance in that room. The classrooms are tiny. And when I say tiny, even for little people, it's tight. So I totally agree with that, Ms. Gay, that there is no way for them to social distance in a room. And if you are saying, and you do want to, you kind of, it's I don't know, it's a catch-22. You want the kids to come back to the classroom because they're not getting it virtually, but at the same time, you want to keep them safe. Well, if they come back to the classroom, now you run the risk of them not being safe and then nobody learning because somebody gets sick and we got to quarantine anyway.
And we're not talking about what happens when people actually get sick. Exactly. I don't know what the protocol is, but it's not, there's no protocol because they're lying to teachers, they're lying to students, they're lying to parents about people who get sick and how often they get sick. And that's why people think it's okay to come back. It's not okay to come back. I don't know any school that has not had a COVID case. I don't know any school that hasn't had teachers and students that have had to leave because of catching COVID, and there's no way for them to address who all those individuals came in contact with. So there's always somebody that they miss. It's not safe.
Now, last week on the news, and I cannot remember what day it was, but they had a report on how many schools in Little Rock actually had a little, I guess you can call it outbreak. So you had X amount of teachers that were out, you had X amount of students that were out. And I remember sitting there talking about, well, it's actually probably 3 times that number. Because each of those students came in contact with at least however many more students. So you've exposed people not knowing that you had it. Teachers have exposed people not knowing that they have it. Nobody's exposing anybody on purpose, but you cannot social distance in a room with 30 class members. You just cannot do it. I've not seen a classroom in a school in Little Rock or anywhere for that matter. Even if you had a college campus classroom and you in an auditorium, you still are not going to be able to social distance if that class is full of people. It's too many people. So I totally agree with you on that. It was one last question I wanted to slip in. We got like some seconds to go, but hey, it's my show. If we go past the hour, we can do that.
That's it.
But just this one last thing. Let's talk about, and let me put this in for parents, because I don't want people to think that the conversation was us bashing parents because they can't get it or they don't know. That's totally not it. You have a lot of parents who, honest to God, are trying. They're trying as hard as they. Sorry about that, y'all have alarms set for different stuff. But they are, honest to God, trying to help their students, their kids get this stuff. They're trying to go on and they're trying to learn the online stuff. Because here's what we also have to consider. You have parents that may not have past the 8th grade education. You have parents that have learning disabilities. You have parents that have other disabilities. You have sick parents. You have people that work constantly. You have people of all different situations where they're not able to grasp what virtual learning is, because guess what? We never did it before. You know, if you're older than, I'm 52, and if you're a little bit older than me, you've never done this before. This was not even around when we were in school. So you're having to learn, you're on a learning curve just like your child is on a learning curve. And if you have difficulty in comprehending things and reading and math and all these other different things, then guess what? How hard is it for you to help your student to be able to grasp this stuff? It's not easy. Again, we're educated. We have degrees. We know some stuff. We're not having trouble. But think about how many parents across the state are. Now, also consider the fact that there are rural areas where there's not good internet connection. And my nephew is in one of those areas. So you're using a hotspot. Guess what? The hotspot cuts off at least 20 times during a lesson. So you're either worried about connecting half of the time or staying connected, or you're worried about, if I submitted it, did it actually go through? So we have those different, it's so many different challenges wrapped around just educating these kids during the pandemic. So for parents, I just want to say, hold on, just do the best. This is one of them times where you honest to God have to say, do the best you can. That's it. Because there's nothing else you really can do, but just do the best you can. But I would say, like you were saying, China, about being on the phone and calling and emailing and texting. If you're that parent that does have that time to be at home with your kid, use all that stuff. If you got a text now, I'm not going to tell them, Ms. Robinson, Ms. Gay, to call y'all at 4:00. But be respectful of the teachers' times, because I have other friends that are educators, and just reading some of their posts on social media and just talking to them, they are struggling. Because the other thing that people don't consider is y'all got families too.
Yes.
You still got to stay at home. You still got to cook. You still got to clean. You still got to take care of your kids. You still got to go pay your bills. You still have things that you have to do too. And you all are giving up your days and sounds like part of your night to still help students regardless to what's going on. Well, you have some parents that are also in that same situation. Right now, if you're blessed to still have a job, they're working as much as they possibly can. And that means that it's taken away from them being able to be at home and to be able to sit by the computer and say, hey, let me help you work through this. So it's so many different levels of this thing that, I mean, we can't even consider all of the variations of what's going on. So it's just bigger than all of us. But like you said, Ms. Brenda, we're all in it together. You know, although I don't have a kid in the district, I will help any kid if I can. And that's why I work with my nephew, because I knew he was struggling, and he asked me, he didn't ask me. I just said, this is what you're going to do. Because we noticing he wasn't getting it. And I'm like, we're going to get on this phone every evening. We're going to get this. Yeah. But everybody don't have somebody to do that.
May I interject really quickly? When it comes to this face-to-face, I'm telling you, it's hard for some people, and there needs to be some workshops to show those teachers that are struggling, because there are some teachers that are actually out there doing it. You have to be creative. You have to be creative. And so with my classes, the students that were at home, the students that were in the school, we're all on the computer. We're all face-to-face. I made my face-to-face students get into their Zoom so that they can see and I'm thinking, I can see everybody, but they don't have it set up. The only time the students can see each other is when they're talking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when my face-to-face students have to say something, you need to turn your mic on, because in order for my virtual students to be engaged, they need to hear you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to turn your mic on and speak into that. And so I did a little activity. I said, everybody turn your Zoom, your cameras off. You got 30 seconds to go. And so we did like a scavenger hunt. Go find 30 seconds. Go find something that represents you. Go in your backpack, go in your purse, pull out something. And so you just have to do something. But I got to give voice to every student too. I'm not going to do all the talking. You have to give your students voice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no more, here's your paper. We're not handing out any papers. Mm-hmm. There were those teachers, all they did was they had handouts and they stand up and they do stuff on the board. Well, it's time out for that. This pandemic is forcing us to do something different. And therefore, we need a professional development by those educators, facilitators, workshop trainers that are actually doing it. And China, in this after school program, they said that they were going to have a virtual camp. It was a real virtual camp, and students were engaged. And you need to be intentional about going and finding those people who know what they're doing, who know how to do it, and they need to be put in place to show those teachers who need help.
Okay. And just to tag under what you're saying, just really quick, when I let Ms. Brenda in China, you all add that one thing that you do, because I love what you said about the teachers needing a workshop to get it. Now, my thing is, if we do one for teachers, please do one for parents.
Of course.
If you have some parents that need, and I think that would have worked out better at the beginning of the school year, had there been some type of parent education workshop so that they could get this and understand, because, we're living in a time of Zoom. I use StreamYard, but there are other different things, but we're living in this time frame where this used to be a live radio show in a radio station, and guests came to the station. Look where we are now. So we're living in a time where this is going to be our norm for quite a while. And I think that had we started off with teachers at the beginning of the year, having some teacher workshops and having some parent workshops, I think this would have gone a whole lot smoother. So just real quick, Ms. Brenda and Ms. China, go ahead and just give us one thing that you would like to see happen going forward. Because I love yours, Ms. Gay. You're definitely right about that. Okay.
Okay. Okay. I don't even know who's gonna go first. Okay. I was just gonna say, piggybacking off of what Miss Wonderlow said earlier, as far as parents communicating with your teachers. Yes, email, text, all of that. But I found it the most helpful. The best way for me to get in touch with my teacher is when they have those live sessions. I just jump on at the beginning or the end, say, "Hey, I'm such and such mom. Can we talk at some point when you got some free time? You don't have time after this, send me an email." But that's the best time to get them, when they're on the computer. Just pop your head on there for 2 seconds. And then I was going to say, as far as advice, parenting advice, you have to get engaged. You have to create time. If you don't have time, find it, create it, or find someone like an auntie or a cousin or somebody who create that one-on-one time for your child. All of them need one-on-one time for online learning. And then my one thing of advice for educators would be to individualize your lesson plans. You know what I'm saying? Like Ms. Gay was just saying, whatever it is that you do to make your stuff engaging in class, you have to figure out how to transfer that to an online virtual platform. You have to do it.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ms. Robinson?
Definitely. Communication is the key, as well as with educators, just the creative engagement to making sure that our children are learning and no one is left out, even with the digital divide. We just have to really feel like, how do we continue to close that gap and just do whatever it takes by all means necessary to make sure that our students are learning.
All right. You all said that wonderfully. Well, we are a little bit over, but like I said, it's my show. We can go over if we want to. Thank you, ladies, so much. I so appreciate you all taking time out this evening to come on and discuss education during the pandemic, the first 9 weeks. We'll make sure that we come back maybe in a semester or another couple of 9 weeks, and we'll give another update. I think that what you all said tonight is totally correct. Parents, what you said, the teachers have to individualize the lesson plans and become more educated on how to use the virtual things. And parents have to do the same thing. We have to be committed to participate in the education of our children. So thank you all so much. I appreciate you. Glad that you all were able to get on. I want you to stick on after we sign off because we can get our picture. But I just want to say to anyone that was watching and those who will watch this later on recording, if you watch this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. If you watch us on Facebook, same thing. Go in and like our page, share the video. If you have any questions that you want to pose to the panel, please make those in the comments and we'll make sure we get an answer for you. Again, thank you all for tuning in tonight. I appreciate you. This is the Ladies Down to Wonderlow. I'm your host. We will see you again next week. Now, remember, next Tuesday night, November 3rd, is Election Day. I will not do a show, but I will be doing participating in some of the watch parties and maybe showing some of the different things that's going on. So do not tune in looking for a whole show. We'll be just doing watch parties because I'll be just like everybody else, glued to the TV trying to see what the results are. So, again, if you have not voted, please go and vote. Make your voice heard. The only way we're going to ever make a change is if we all stand up, we all, hold people accountable that we elect, and that we all work together. So no hate, all love. If you haven't voted, please go do so. But make sure that you stay safe when you do. Put your mask on, keep your distance, and wash your hands when you get finished. But make sure you vote. So again, thank you all for tuning in tonight, and we will see you again next week. And remember, next week it'll be election watch party. So tune in for that. Thank you so much. And ladies, you stick around for our picture, and that's it. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.